evening, San Diego. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis, and thank you for tuning in for your CBS 8 Plus weather update. We are still talking about weather impact alert days as we are still looking at some heat into the start of the weekend. Even one particular area has a continuation when it comes to the heat advisory. So hot highs for this weekend. It's also turning steamy, and that's because more monsoonal moisture is expected in the forecast. We had a little bit of that seeping through today. That's why we had some of those upper level clouds. You saw the cumulus clouds building up over the mountains, and we did actually have a lone shower that was out there. We are looking at the potential for more of that shower activity across the mountains as well as for the desert, and cannot rule out a thunderstorm as well. So when it comes to the heat advisory, it will continue for one more day. So one more weather impact alert day across the inland valleys. It will expire tonight at 8 p.m. with the heat advisory for the mountains below 5,500 feet. And the desert keeps going all the way until Saturday as well. So still talking about some heat into the weekend. And then by next week, we're looking at an increase in humidity as monsoonal moisture becomes more pronounced across the county, but also the area of high pressure moving out. That also allows for our temperatures to slip a little bit more. So not expecting the really hot highs to continue into next week, but they are going to take us into the start of the weekend as mentioned. Overnight lows, you're looking at 70 degrees for Escondido, 71 degrees, also in the 70s for El Cajon as well as for Carlsbad and for Encinitas. You have 86 degrees as an overnight low. That's for Borrego Springs, and 69 degrees expected for downtown and for La Mesa. Daytime highs for tomorrow. We're back into those widespread 90s across the inland valleys. That's why you still have a continuation when it does come to the heat advisory. You're looking at 95 degrees for Ramona, 94 degrees for Valley Center, even the 90s across the mountains, and getting away from those 1 teens, but still a pretty warm temperature at 109. That will be for Borrego Springs by tomorrow. We still have some warmer than usual temperatures for the coast. So you have that at 81 degrees for Oceanside. Also talking about 80s. That will be for Chula Vista as well as for downtown tomorrow to kick off the weekend. So when we look at our forecast, we are looking at that monsoonal moisture back in the mix as well. We'll get to that in a second. Surf forecast about 2 to 4 feet and a moderate risk of rip currents at our local beaches. This was a view earlier this evening. Now the clouds have flattened out just a little bit more, but we did have some of those big cumulus clouds that were developing, and even the radar that was showing some activity. So over the last few hours, we had a little bit of a surge, and that was with one lone shower that picked up near Pine Valley, and then everything started to dry out. So we are looking at activity increasing over the weekend as an area of high pressure does send that moisture in our direction. So it's more favorable for the mountains as well as for the desert. And you're even going to see it continue all the way into next week as this area of high pressure just opens that door for monsoonal moisture. You can see the whole swath, that influx of it, and that's going to be because of that clockwise circulation, so sending it across the desert southwest. We also have the potential of seeing it across the mountains when it comes to any activity. Now, west of the mountains, this is what's going to be a little bit more on the tricky side over the next few days. Some forecast models are aligning with the typical pattern with monsoonal moisture. Most of that activity being over the mountains as well as for the desert, and then a slight chance it could drift west of the mountains. Others are indicating that we have a shot of seeing some of that activity across the inland valleys as well as potentially right along the coast by this weekend. So basically, you're just going to see some lightning markers that are going to be popping up. So when it comes to most of that activity, it does look to be more favorable with the heating of the day. By the afternoon, early evening hours, once we get into nighttime hours, things look to be a little bit quieter. But there is still some variety there when it comes to model. And so we'll break down one of them coming up. But that 5%, that's basically closer towards the coast and also impacting for downtown. It comes up to about a 15%, and that's by Sunday. Then you're looking at the higher end of that. That 20% is closer towards the adjacent foothills for the mountains. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the forecast models that kind of strays away from this typical monsoonal pattern of seeing more of that activity for the mountains in the desert. So this is about 5 in the morning on Saturday. You're seeing that we do have this one little lone cell that pops up near Julian as well as Ramona. Also seeing activity across the desert for Borrego Springs and even portions of our county a little bit more towards the south near Tecate. Then you start to see that lifting a little bit more towards the north, still impacting across the desert, but now we're seeing it stretch a little bit more closer towards the coast. This is about 7 a.m. in the morning, so you're seeing it for Del Mar, you're seeing it for Oceanside, more moderate and heavier rainfall for Poway as well as for Ramona. Then we see another influx of moisture moisture. This is around 8:25 on Saturday. This is impacting for the South Bay. Seeing this for El Cajon as well, impacting across North County, still with the desert seeing some of that moisture, and then it starts to lessen up just a little bit more as we go into the afternoon hours, and then seeing another cell near Julian, some showers near El Cajon, and then activity kind of calming down once we get into the nighttime hours. I show you that just to say that some of these forecast models have been indicating staying away from that pattern and just seeing more of an influx of moisture. And so that's why I wanted to show you there is a possibility that we could see that activity outside of that typical window of the afternoon, early evening hours. So that's what we're dealing with over the weekend. We're looking at lightning markers more favorable for the inland valleys, maybe some showers closer towards the coast, and still holding on to warmer than usual temperatures for the coast over the weekend. You have widespread low 80s in the forecast. You're back into the 70s starting on Monday. That's more of a seasonal for this time of the year. And you still have that one more weather impact alert day across the inland valleys before those 80s roll in by next week. 87 degrees by Tuesday. Also looking at that slight chance of seeing some afternoon showers and thunderstorms in the forecast for the inland valleys all the way through Wednesday, and then drier air looks to arrive by Thursday and Friday of next week. For the mountains, I put the lightning markers, same for the desert, because that's where it looks to be more favorable for the activity. You still have one more weather impact alert day for the desert as we have the extreme heat warning all the way until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Not talking about alerts continuing for the mountains, but the monsoonal moisture bringing cloud cover, helping to reduce temperatures as well. And so that has us back into the 90s for the desert by Tuesday of next week, and back into those low 80s by Tuesday of next week for the mountains. Just keep in mind, if you have your CBS 8 app, you would get any alerts. If we start to get some of those stronger cells that could produce some frequent lightning as well as heavy rainfall, gusty winds, maybe even some small hail with some of those stronger cells. And as mentioned, that would be more favorable. It's looking afternoon, evening hours, but we could see it outside of that window as well. You just never know. But if you do have the CBS 8 app, you would get the alert if one is issued right there on your phone and it comes to any flood concerns for this weekend and all the way into next week. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you right back here next week.